Hello and welcome to a new episode from Christine Climbs. In today's video, I have a guest with me. His name is Christian or Chris, and he is a local climber at my gym. I haven't climbed with him before, but I have seen him around at the gym a lot. And one thing that you notice when you see Chris climbs is that he is really muscular and powerful. Kind of the opposite of what I feel when I'm climbing. So I thought it would be interesting to arrange a session with Chris to see if our differences in power is visible when we are climbing. I hope you enjoy today's video. The first thing we wanted to do was to test some climbing related strength exercises like hang-ups. I never practice hang-ups. I have done it a couple of times and my record is 4 or 5. So today I was able to do 7, even though Chris told me I did 6. So that was really fun, even though I don't really enjoy working on them. So since Chris is super strong in hang-ups, he wanted to do a muscle up for each hang up that I was able to do. So he did 6, even though he should have done 7. And then he rounded up with some normal hang ups. So in this first exercise, the difference between me and Chris was huge. He could probably have taken around 1,000 hang ups on a bad day, and I have a total maximum at 7. The next thing we wanted to test was our finger strength. So we hung from a 20mm edge and we wanted to see how long we were able to hang for. I was able to hang for 25 seconds and I was quite happy about that result, even though I didn't know how long I was able to hang or how long I should be able to hang. But I think 25 seconds is a good result. Chris completed with 23 seconds, so at this exercise I was the winner. The next thing we wanted to test was our core strength. So Chris had this great exercise, he said, which was L-sit. I haven't done this before and I was in so much pain during the attempt and my legs were killing me. So in this exercise, Chris was the winner. So now we will do some warm-up drills, which Chris never does either. So this will be new. So if you first start to just climb the green or turquoise holes.
This one?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, that's pink.
Yes. Oh, for sure.
The plan was to record sound live during our climb, but the route setters were really busy this day creating new awesome boulders for us. It was too much background sound from all that noise, so I had to replace the original sound with voiceover. That was actually kind of sad because it appeared that Chris is such a fun dude to climb with. Det var vanskelig. And we had some hilarious moments during our training. So we have to do a session later where we can record sound in quiet surroundings. As I mentioned in the beginning, Chris doesn't really do any warm-up exercises, so I wanted to show him some of my warm-up routines because I always use around 20 to 30 minutes doing yoga and climbing drills. And I wanted to see how Chris climbed my type of warm-up exercises. After we finished our warm-up drills, we wanted to work on a little bit harder problems like this V3 on an overhanging wall. It has crimpy and small but really good holes, so it should be an easy send for both of us. Me and Chris are climbing around the same grade, between V4 to V5. But due to our differences when it comes to strength and weaknesses, I often see that we solve problems very different. Christian is very active posting climbing content on his Instagram page, so I often see the way that he climbs boulders at our gym, and I compare it to how I climb them, and the results are often very different. So that's also why I wanted to arrange a climbing session together with Chris to see and compare our climbing style in real life. This is also a V3 boulder with a creative start. You have to place both of your hands on the green hold at the bottom where the foot is placed. And for Chris, that is not the most flexible dude at the gym. This is a kind of a hard time for him. My goal with our session together was to find boulders that shows our differences in style and strength and weaknesses. So I chose this boulder because I wanted to compare our flexibility in a boulder that had a start that requires exactly that. I think I asked Chris if he wanted to climb with me on a Friday, and this is the Monday after, so it was only a couple of days from when I asked till we did our session together. So I didn't have that much time to plan what we were going to do. And I was also kind of nervous about having a guest because it feels kind of serious to have somebody else climbing with me in my kind of amateur production. So we found the boulders that we were going to work on during our session this day. I think we saw this boulder quite similar, except from the start when I had an easier time than Chris did because of my flexibility and the fact that I'm short. But the rest was easy and not that different. The next boulder has a running start, even though it seems more like a walk in the park when Chris is doing it. He did it on his first attempt, and he didn't have any big issues with the last part of the boulder either. After Chris had nailed this boulder in 20 seconds, I asked him to sit down because I assumed I would use a couple of attempts before I nail it. I have done this one before, but I always need a couple of attempts to be able to control the beginning. I solve it a bit different than he does. I start with the opposite leg, which means that I have to do a foot swap in the middle, and that requires a little bit extra coordination, but that is the way that suits me the best, I think. The next boulder is on the same wall. It's a slab wall with kind of alright holds, but it requires a little bit more of planning and balance, especially in the last and middle part. So for Chris, this last move was quite easy. He can just pull himself over and reach it, but I need some other movements to be able to get over there. This is a boulder that I really enjoy, and I have done it a couple of times before, and I think it's very flowy and cool. So the main difference is that I need a little bit more power and trust the last hold, but otherwise it's quite similar climbing. I think this next boulder is a great way to show differences between technique and strength. Because Chris is so strong, he can just campus his way around the Bathang beginning, and that makes him use a little less time climbing than I have to do with the Bathang start. He is struggling a little bit more than I am in this next move, where you have to press up because he is taller than I am, but then again he does the ending a little bit more easy than I am. And of course, we have to include some human flagging. I have never tried a Bathang move before this boulder came up a couple of weeks ago, and I spent a lot of time to be able to do the start. A lot of people does it more statical, but I found that I need to kind of kickstart my way up to be able to control the feet and get in a correct position. So in this part, my height is on my side because the press part is going very smooth, but I need to take a bigger step and trust my body position in a different way than Chris has to do. And I skipped the human flag this time. Chris wanted to show me how he did the campus start so that I could try it as well. And he looks super strong doing it, and it's also very easy for him. For me, this movement doesn't come that natural, even though I think I could have nailed it with some weeks of practicing. But as you may see, campusing isn't my strongest side. Since Chris really enjoyed the campus training, we went over to the other side of this wall to practice on some more campus-ish routes. And he was super strong at this boulder, and he almost made it the whole way up. And for me, this is something that I never do. I can spend a little time at the campus board that you see upstairs, but that's only like in the end of a session once or twice every second month. So I don't spend much time focusing on this. Here, Chris showed me that I needed to be more explosive to get to the next hold. I don't think that I'm a very explosive person or climber, so maybe some good old campus training is exactly what I need to push on climbing harder grades. The next boulder we wanted to work on is this V4 on an overhanging wall. It is very technical, and I was curious to see how Chris would solve the start on this one. I have sent it one time before, a couple of weeks ago, and I haven't tried it since. And Chris hasn't tried it at all, so I was really curious to find out how he would solve the beginning of this problem. This boulder is both crimpy, pinchy, and really hard, so this is one of the V4 boulders that I'm really proud that I have sent. For the first time during our workout together, I finished a boulder before he did, so I could sit back and relax and watch him struggle a bit in the background. And he tried to do it my way with the toe hook in the beginning, but he found that he didn't like that way, so he wanted to see if he could kind of muscle or campus his way up to the pinch. And I think with a little bit more attempts, he would have nailed that move. But during this session, he was not able to complete this boulder. So here, I think technique is a little bit more important than strength. Then we went over to the boulder of the week. It's an overhanging kind of jumpy start with a technical middle and last part. Chris had done it before, and I thought it looked super cool when he posted the video of him climbing it. So I was hoping that I was also able to do it during a few attempts this day. And I really don't think this was the intended ending beta, but when you're climbing with a gym bro, you just have to accept this kind of stunts, I suppose. For me, this start jump was just impossible to do, and Chris actually got a little bit frustrated at me for not being able to do it. He was like, look at all those hard things you have done earlier today, and you can't do this one easy jump? What's wrong with you? And I don't know why this jump was so impossible for me to do, but I never got to reach the next hold and then try the rest of the boulder. So that was a real bummer. This boulder is graded V5, and it's one of the first V5s that I have ever been able to send. And when I first sent it, I did it on my first attempt, and I was like, this cannot be a V5 because I have never sent a V5 before, and now I am flashing them. So instead of being happy about sending a V5 that easy, I actually got a bit upset because I felt that it was kind of undeserved because I didn't have to work hard to do it. So I guess it must be kind of hard to be a route setter because people will be pissed at you if you grade a problem too hard, but they will also be pissed at you if you grade it too easy. So for me and my climbing style, this isn't a really hard boulder. But as you can see, Chris is having a lot more problems than I do in the beginning. It's super crimpy with very small holes on the first blue big hold. And he is not able to hang on to those two holes. But I, as a light woman with small hands, don't have any big problems about sticking the first move at all. So in this boulder, power doesn't help you that much. The only thing that helps you is having small hands and being good at crimps. As you can see from this video, there is a lot of campus training, and that's something to be aware of if you're ever planning a climbing session with a gym bro. As I said in the last campus sequence, this kind of training is something that I never do. And I'm kind of curious to hear what you guys out there think about campus training on boulders like me and Chris are doing here. Is it something that you think is important to be a good climber or to develop certain skills, or is it something that you don't actually need to include in your training? Because as you can see, I'm not very good at this kind of climbing. And I would like to know if you think that I should include more campus training in my normal weekly climbing sessions. So please leave a comment with your thoughts. This V5 problem has a really powerful and difficult jumping start. And I really wanted Chris to be able to send this problem because I kind of thought it was his style. So I just wanted to show him how the boulder is in the middle part. For me, this is maybe the worst kind of climbing I can do. It's slabby, reachy, and super scary. But Chris, who is a lot stronger and a little bit taller, should be able to complete this boulder with a little bit more ease than I can do. So I kind of cheated my way through the middle part just to try to show him that this was a boulder that maybe could be done by him. Both of us tried to start like 1,000 times, but I eventually gave up. And here, Christian finally was able to do the start correctly. As you can see, it's a pretty big move and you kind of bump directly into the wall. And then you have to mantle your way up to this big black hole and grab the one on the left. At this point, Chris realized that he was out of chalk, so as the good climbing friend I am, I went to give him some of mine. That's also why I take at least 80% of the credit of him being able to top this boulder. If I don't remember totally wrong, I think he used around 2.5 minutes in the wall completing this boulder, so I have trimmed the video quite a bit. But he did reach the last hole, and I am super proud of him for being able to send this boulder after just one session. One thing that I really liked when I was climbing with Chris, who obviously is a much stronger climber than I am, was that instead of being angry or kind of jealous if one of us could do a thing the other couldn't, we just got impressed and fascinated about the movements that the other person could do, and we cheered for each other and had a really good time. And I also think it's a lot of learning to climb with a climber who has a different style than you do, because then you can try to adapt and do things a little bit different than you normally do. So this was a really cool and fun session, and I really hope to climb more with Chris and other climbers in the future. So even though it's way out of my comfort zone to invite a person to climb with me, especially a person that I really don't know and haven't climbed with before, this was such a nice experience. And I really want to invite other climbers later in my videos. And if you have any ideas about what kind of climbers I should include, please leave a comment. And thank you so much for watching this video, and I hope you have a really nice week with some good training.